we've talked about in the past how they're, the squad is what it is on the blue side.
Squad is what it is.
They're all
Right.
lunatics. They're all crazy, but they all support each other. Like, no matter how crazy things get, they all support each other. Then whatever it is, 8 or 9 or 12 of them, they stick together, right?
Yep. They do.
And what is happening on and we even talked about this, how you don't see that on the GOP side.
No.
Right? You don't have that core group of folks. Well, you do have it now.
Right.
You've got a small group now, and it's led by Matt Gaetz.
Yes.
And listen, I'm not, and I know you're not, advocating that our politicians vote party line, right?
Right.
They should vote the issue based on their constituency, based on what their constituency wants and needs. And that's what they're there for, right? They're representative of their district or their state or whatever.
Right.
Right. Well, unfortunately, what we've got now is a lot of, we talked about party lines, right? Everybody votes on party lines. When you have the majority in Congress, this tends to be how, progress is made in one direction or the other, whatever party you're on, as long as everybody tends to vote on party lines. Because right now it's very tight, right? The House especially, but it's all very tight. Matt Gaetz and Boebert and a few others, they are the reason why things aren't getting done right now. They are really, in a lot of cases, truthfully, fighting against the GOP out of spite.
Well, that answers my question, because I was actually just going to ask you, do you feel that they are right or wrong, essentially? And that's kind of a broad question, because it's a little nuanced, right? Because there's different topics. We're talking Ukraine aid. We're talking, we're talking a lot of different things technically, but in general, I get the idea that you think they're a little over the top, maybe.
I think that a lot of it is done for self-promotion. A lot of it is done for attention. And I think Gaetz is probably the worst of them. I think he's a grandstander. I think that he is there purely for his own, forward progress. I think he likes his name to be in the news as much as possible. And even if that means he's, kind of not moving the ball forward, and I'm not somebody who uses sports metaphors a lot, but that's really what he's doing, is he's halting progress of any kind. And I think it's solely for his own personal gain. And he's got some folks that are jumping on board with him, either in the short term or the long term, that are, helping to disrupt things. And again, I'm not advocating to vote party line, but when the House and the Senate are as tight as they are, to do anything, you almost have to vote party line. Otherwise, it just becomes stagnated. And it's, just as bad as when you've got one house and not the other, or you've got both houses but not the presidency, or I think we're probably going on 12 years now where we've legitimately gotten nothing done because there's so much crossover in the parties and everything's so tight that if you don't stand on the line, then it all stops. And that's what's happening right now. And it's the party itself is not shy about this. They haven't been, Dan Crenshaw, some of the other voices. And again, I'm not a huge fan of Crenshaw. I do like him. He uses social media better than anybody else that I think, which is why I see a lot of his opinions, because he does use social media well. He's one of those two that he calls out Gaetz at every opportunity, because he's the guy. He's the bump in the road. And I think he does it for self-promotion.
Yeah, it's, so we'll go back a little bit. So this kind of, and I'm not saying this is the beginning, but this is maybe for the casual viewer, so to speak. This is kind of a beginning point. So we start with the ousting of Speaker Kevin McCarthy. And that, of course, was pushed by Matt Gaetz, his Freedom Caucus. So now we have this division happening over foreign aid and Mike Johnson's speakership. So here we are again with that. Notably, of course, so I take that back. Matt Gaetz isn't quite calling for him to vacate, but Marjorie Taylor Greene is, and she has a couple of times now, and she's I saw the what is that, palm, face palm, that's it, face palm, I can come up with it. Yeah. Yes, so of course, bad look again for the not being unified. However, I will say, 95, so the lawmakers passed a $95 billion package that will provide military aid to Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan. And their standpoint is that being Marjorie Taylor Greene and that crew essentially is the question of where's the aid for our border? Where's our border safety? Where's the money for us for what we need? Which I think is a legitimate question. Has it been answered? I don't actually know. Maybe you know better. I know Mike Johnson has spoken on this recently, and I slacked, and I don't actually have that in front of me. So slacker. So I actually don't know what his response to that is. But I know that Matt Gaetz threw out the name of Lauren Boebert for a potential, although he's not calling to vacate, for Mike Johnson to vacate, but he threw out that name, which is interesting in of itself. Is he putting out feelers? I don't know. But, the core of the problem here is we can't be doing this crap. Like, we can't, can't they take it behind closed doors and hash it out there? And then, I guess ultimately the biggest question is, can't you just represent the people who put you in there and do what we want you to do? It goes for all of them, not just.
Yeah, that's really what we want. But you're right. There is some of this, and again, he won't do it behind closed doors because he wants his face on the television. And it's interesting that he's floating other names out there to be speaker and not his own, because he doesn't want the responsibility. He doesn't want to have to toe the party line. He also knows that he would never get selected as speaker. Never. No. So he's not going to embarrass himself, because he knows that I wouldn't say he's public enemy number one, but he's pretty high on the list.
Sure.
As far as the GOP goes. So he'll never get selected to be the speaker. So he's not going to volunteer for it.
Smart.
So
yeah, we're talking about just as far as specifically the Ukraine aid bill. You have 101 Republicans voted in favor, and you have 112 voted against it. I mean, split almost in half. That's interesting to say the least, right?
Yeah, and I know this is a pretty tense subject right now. The Ukraine aid. I know that attached to that was some split aid to Israel and Gaza at the same time, which was crazy. And then there were some other pieces and parts in there, but the bulk of that bill was the Ukraine aid, and that is the questions being asked are exactly what you were talking about, which is, why are we not funding the border? Why are we not housing homeless veterans? Why are we not there's a lot of things that we could use that $65 billion for here in the United States. Why are we not doing that? And why are we sending it overseas? And that's definitely a deeper, geopolitical, diplomatic question to be asked and answered. And I think a lot of that is, dependent upon your perspective on how diplomacy works as a politician, and most of them, let's be honest, most of who is in the House of Representatives, especially as first termers, most of them don't have a great handle on diplomacy. They really don't. It's a lack of experience for the vast majority of them. And they don't understand the ins and the outs of it. They don't understand, and I'm not claiming to be an expert, but many of them don't know, and they have no experience in it, and they don't have any education in it, really. Some of them, even if they're on a committee, it's got nothing to do with foreign aid or diplomacy or defense or intelligence or any of the rest of that stuff. So they just don't know. So when they look at it on the face and they say, well, we should be funding the border and we shouldn't be funding Ukraine. And this is, again, we're kind of moving between topics because I know that we really want to talk about, the Ukraine aid, but at the same time, many of us who've been around this for a long time, I'm tired of, and I've been saying this, Ukraine should be a NATO problem. I think I speak for a lot of people when I say $130 billion and counting is way too much money.
Right.
It's clearly not turning any kind of diplomatic profit as it stands right now. It's an investment that's going sideways. It's an investment in war, and there's a lot of speculation about what the value of that is at this point. There's a lot of war hawks and defense industry folks, and there's a lot of speculation that politicians up to and including the president are taking some influence from some of the defense industry to continue to push this proxy war, to help the defense industry. And that's why the $65 billion, because where are they going to spend that money? They're going to buy U.S. stuff, right? Or the U.S. is going to donate. The U.S. is going to donate equipment to Ukraine, and we're going to buy to replace. Right. So either way, the U.S. defense industry wins. But that's all an extension of diplomacy that clearly half of the Republican representatives don't agree with. They don't agree with how diplomacy is being executed in this specific case. Half of them do.